I feel very blessed to have grown up around the time that the Lord of the Rings movies came out. I spent countless hours as a child with my mates running around in woods not too dissimilar from these, with sticks, pretending I was Aragorn or Legolas. We would fight off imaginary hordes of orcs and just generally have a great time adventuring. And as I grew older, I started to have even more of an appreciation for the Lord of the Rings. Both the movies and the books soon became a big part of my life. And what I feel very, very blessed to have had is Aragorn as a role model. I think that Aragorn really does just emulate what masculinity should look like. You know, he's a courageous and fierce warrior. He's a king. He's a ranger. He's able to survive out in the wilds. Yet he's also a healer. He's deeply in touch with his emotions, and he's also a poet. Things that are modern masculinity, or our modern views of masculinity, I think kind of shy away from. You know, it's all very macho and very, what I want to call, fake stoic. You know, that we shouldn't feel our emotions, we shouldn't be in touch with our emotions, which really isn't what stoicism is either. Stoicism, I think, is shown so well in the Lord of the Rings movies, where Aragorn is it's just in the mines of Moria, just after Gandalf has fallen, and Aragorn feels this deeply, this loss. You can see it in his face. You know, he lingers longer than really any of the other members of the party, but he realises that they're deeply in danger and that they need to get out, and he leads them out of the mines of Moria. And then there's a scene just as they get out where Aragorn says to all of the party to get up and to make their way to Lothlorien, and some of the other members of the party are kind of against this. They feel that they need a bit longer to grieve, but Aragorn understands that there will be time to grieve in Lothlorien, but for the time being they need to get away. They need to put some leagues between them and the orcs behind them. And this view of stoicism, where the modern world sort of thinks that men shouldn't feel their emotions, is just wrong. It's fake. And what that story of Aragorn shows is that there is a time to feel your emotions. There is nothing wrong with being in touch with them, but it's about doing it in a time and a place that allows for those emotions. You know, we may feel very angry, perhaps, if we are in a meeting for work that doesn't go our way. And there are times when, you know, we might just want to go and punch somebody. But that emotion, that anger, to go and just act out in that moment isn't the right thing to do. And actually to kind of keep a lid on our emotions and to take it and to process it perhaps in a more healthy way, to channel that anger into perhaps a nice heavy set of deadlifts that you can slam about, is far better than doing something that you'll regret. And also, I think Aragorn is one of the best examples of masculinity, in that he, the whole way through the books, is really just serving others. You know, to start with, when we encounter him as a ranger, he spent years just protecting the wilds and the frontiers from orcs, stopping them from reaching the Shire. And he's also then, as we kind of see him serving and protecting Frodo and the other hobbits as they journey to Rivendell, he just puts himself into these places of servanthood. And it's something that we really see mirrored in the Bible by the most masculine man of all, Jesus. In his life, he spends all of his time serving God and serving others, the servant king. Something that Aragorn in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings really mirrors. And I think when we take those examples of men, of servitude, of integrity, of strength, of courage, but also of stillness, of art, of emotion, and we compare that to what the world is sort of pushing out today, you know, the Andrew Tates of the world, where the view of masculinity is how many women, how many cars, how much money you have, and I think it's leading a lot of people astray, and to put their trust and their life force in the wrong place. I think a lot of men are caught up in the pursuit of chasing those worldly things, and really what the world needs more of is more Aragorns, not more Andrew Tates. It needs more men to stand up, to lead, to serve, to stand for something, to protect, but also to heal, to bring peace, to protect, and to be poets too. You know, I find sometimes my most peaceful times and the times I feel most masculine are actually when I'm writing poetry. I've written several poems over the years for my wife, and I know just how much she enjoys those and how special they are to her. And it's something that I feel like a lot of men have lost these days. You know, it might be seen as a bit feminine to write poetry, but actually, take it from me that yeah, writing poetry is very masculine, and it certainly can lead to a much better and much deeper relationship. You know, it says so much more than just buying her diamonds or buying her flowers. You know, the fact that you've actually created something and put your emotions into words, that's really powerful. It's why I enjoy writing so much, whether that's you know, poetry or journaling or, you know, writing fantasy. That act of being able to create, I think, is very masculine too. It's again something that the world seems to have forgotten at the moment. It seems to be all about making money or driving fast cars, not the things that, you know, several hundred years ago in the ages of chivalry would have been seen as the masculine things then. I guess maybe I'm an old soul and I quite like the historic way of looking at things, and perhaps a bit of nostalgia for a time that, yeah, chivalry wasn't dead in. And I think, again, when we kind of look at comparing the Aragorn to Andrew Tate, it kind of reminds me of like some of the Roman emperors. It's almost like we, rather than idolising the Marcus Aurelius, you know, one of the most famous Roman emperors who wrote Meditations, which is a fantastic book, and I suggest you read it. But yeah, he was really in touch with his emotions, but in a way that was healthy. You know, he recognised them, he wrote about them, and he still was able to be a man, to lead, to be strong. And then I suppose the Andrew Tates are perhaps more like the Caligulas of the Roman emperors. You know, it was just all a very vain and hedonistic pursuit of power and wealth and women. And so I suppose my question is, why do we idolise the Caligula? Why do we idolise the Andrew Tate when really we should be idolising the Aragorn or the Marcus Aurelius? You know, we should be trying to live our lives out as those more healthy and better forms of masculinity, and ultimately trying to live our lives more like Jesus too. You know, the best example that we can follow of what it means to be a man. So I hope that's helped, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless.